We're good?
We're recording.
All right, Parks Committee will come to order. We'll note that all members are here, Alderman Johnson, Alderman Nicholson, Alderman Burnett, Alderman Gray. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Johnson. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Can I have approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Nicholson, second by Burnett. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Regular business, number 1, consideration with possible action on the request by Alder Stoyer, Mr. Presidente, to reprioritize pickleball as a high priority in the 2020 Parks Department wish list.
So yeah, so at the August 14th Park Committee, a motion was made to work with the pickleball group to see if they could increase their donation contribution to $25,000, and then to bring this back for consideration to fund the remaining portion of the project in the 2021 bond request. Since then, we've had Alderman Stoyer and I have had several meetings with this donor or with this fundraiser, and he has committed to fundraising $25,000. He did run into, which is 10% of the construction cost, but he did run into a problem where there wasn't a city commitment. So as he was reaching out to individuals asking for money, they were wondering where the city's commitment was to the project because we didn't fund our portion. So he just asked if we could reconsider, and this came to Alderman Stoyer, for us to reconsider bonding in 2020 versus 2021. And I guess before I kind of go into whether or not how that would fit into our project list, I don't know if Alderman Stoyer has anything he wants to add.
Well, thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, yeah.
Sorry. You know, I talked to Director Ditchite today about it, and I was I was satisfied with the discussion that we had in terms of how this might go forward. I think initially we were thinking that this might be a 2021 bond request, and Director Ditchite can fill you in on that, but it sounds to me like that there was some rearrangement of some projects and such, and I'm just saying that, the research I've done on pickleball throughout the country and also in the state of Wisconsin, that it is a very strong and growing sport, and Green Bay has an opportunity to get some very nice courts over at Murphy Park. And with that being said, that will draw interest from around the area, and I'm looking at, hopefully some economic development, different things going on with people coming in. But I'm happy with what Director Ditchite came up with, and he can fill you in a little bit on that as well.
So what I handed out was our proposed 2020 project bond request for the parks. As far as the pickleball goes, in either scenario, we wouldn't be building it until 2021 in any case, because we have other projects backlogged, so we're still getting caught up on projects that are already funded. And same with all of our other projects that we were going to fund in 2020, the majority of them wouldn't be built until 2021. So what we're proposing to do is kind of revamp our 2020 request that was in our 5-year capital improvement plan, and just change a few things around. Some other priorities came up since the 5-year plan was approved anyway, so we looked at the whole year as a whole. So what you see in front of you would be staff's recommendation as far as what the new projects would be. So under Finger Road Ball Complex, for many years, probably ever since the facility was opened up, there was a donor group that wanted to install a concession stand with restrooms out there. But because it's an active landfill, we had problems getting approval from the DNR to run utilities out to it. We've been working with Public Works. We now feel that that we'll be able to do that. And so we've been working with Public Works on the engineering behind it. So what this cost would be is running the utilities to the middle of the ball field complex, which is the ideal location for an amenity like this. And then the donor group will fund the actual construction of the building. This is kind of in line with what we've done with our other projects, where we teamed up with groups for concession stands as we paid for the utilities running to it. This is a new project that was not in our 5-year plan because at the time we didn't know that the approval was going to come forward, but this project has been in the works or under discussion for probably 8 years now. So it's, you know, we feel this is a great project to move forward. We do have the pickleball courts at Murphy Park, which is removing the tennis courts that are there and replacing them with 6 pickleball courts. If we do approve this, he would continue to fundraise $25,000 towards the project. So this doesn't get him off the hook with the fundraising, he's still committed to doing that. So this is just a partial cost. Hockey rink board replacements, this is to replace some of the existing hockey rinks with new boards for $25,000. That was on our list in the past. Bear Creek Greenway new pedestrian bridge for $95,000. That's a new project that has come up also. That was not in our 5-year plan. We've been talking about it for several years, but the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation actually came up with, I believe, $30,000 towards this project. With that money, we hired an engineering firm to design the bridge, and we're working on the construction plans now. So now we need funding to actually implement it. And at the time when the 5-year plan was there, we didn't know that the $30,000 donation was coming in for that bridge. Then we get to the Wildlife Sanctuary Observation Building roof replacement. That was in there last year. We would like to do that because that's one that needs to be done. Wildlife Sanctuary security upgrades for $50,000. Again, that was not in our 5-year plan initially, but we would like to upgrade all of the alarms and upgrade the locks throughout the entire facility. We've never done that. Half of the alarms don't even work in the buildings, so we need new alarms there. And throughout the years, keys have been given out to volunteers and animal care volunteers, and nobody knows who has the keys anymore to anything out there. So we really need to upgrade our security out there, get it to where it needs to be, and $50,000 should cover that. Wildlife Sanctuary, $400,000 for additional parking. This would accommodate the new rental facility. We do not have adequate parking for that facility. So we do need additional parking stalls out there. We had that in our 5-year plan, but it was at a later date. Now that that building's going to be opening up this year, we really need to bump that up in the process here. And then $100,000 for miscellaneous paving. As a staff, we applied for 2 DOT grants for trails. And this $100,000 would be required as a match if we receive the grants. If we don't receive the grants, then we can use that funding for a different project and allocate it towards something else. But we should know in the next few months whether or not we get those 2 grants.
Thank you, Director. Before we go to committee here, I was just going to entertain a motion to open the floor.
Oh, okay, sorry.
If I could get one.
I'll make that motion.
We used to just
Well, I
have you
forgot
talk,
we
but
had
now
to
we have to
open-
open
yeah.
the floor for you.
That'll be 2 seconds. I just had, that pickleball, I believe about 10 years ago, they came to me because at Edison, in my district, it wasn't really being utilized properly, and I think they put a pickleball court where a tennis court is, right? And it made quite a difference. That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and actually this year we're adding more this year.
Yeah, so it made a big difference in they loved it, so from what it went to, so.
Tom Dwayne.
Yeah.
What's your address, sir?
2535 Delaware Drive.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, buddy.
Anything else? No, okay.
Motion to close.
Motion to close the floor. Burnett,
Second.
Johnson, those in favor?
I got a question.
Opposed?
Well, I mean, do we have to replace all the tennis courts? I mean, doesn't anybody use them?
There are tennis courts that we just built at Perkins, and I guess as a
Okay.
staff, we've talked about in the past where we really don't need that many tennis courts that close to each other.
Okay.
So this will remove the tennis courts in its entirety and build 6 pickleball.
Got it.
It's brand new.
I got it.
Alderman Burnett.
Couple questions, Director Ditch. I think 50,000 for wildlife sanctuary security upgrades.
Mhm.
How long would that bond issue be?
Well, I mean, the last locks lasted 30-plus years. I mean, we haven't replaced locks out there in over 30 years, so.
But the bonded money, how long until that's paid back?
It's usually a 20-year
1
bond
year.
cycle.
So do
Yeah.
you think the locks would, life
Yeah.
of the locks exceed, is it going to be like an electronic, like a a card, swipe card?
The alarms will be a swipe, and some doors will be a swipe alarm, other ones will be a key.
So for the sake of the committee, I had the gentleman who appeared before the committee in the past, although it's in Alder Stoyer's district, he's a constituent of mine, and I met with him a couple of weeks ago, and he gave me an update because I wasn't at the committee meetings when he previously presented. Well, he said he was gonna email each of you the updated plan today, so you may have gotten that. I met with him, as I said, and I feel comfortable with what his level of commitment and his fundraising plan is. So it's hard to say I'm in favor of moving things up the list, but, you know, per the insight of the Parks Director and the things that he mentioned, I'm comfortable with moving pickleball as a higher priority because of the research that's been done, so.
Fair enough. Alder Johnson, anything? No? Director, thanks for the list here. I was wondering, I mean, we're gonna see this again anyway when we go to bond, right?
Yeah,
This is
so-
just kind of an unofficial,
So what this would be for a motion is to refer the park, the 2020 proposed park projects to the Finance Committee for review and approval in the 5-year capital improvement plan.
I do have a question. Were we going to initially bond about 1.1 million anyway? That was at our,
Correct. Our target number was 1.1 million, so we haven't changed that dollar amount. We've just shifted priorities. And the other projects that were funded or being proposed in the 5-year plan were just pushed back a year or two for the most part.
and it seems like it might be a couple because we're probably shifting in 400,000 or more of what got bumped out.
Well,
It's hard to make a,
Sure. So basically, we had some monies in the 5-year plan to add parking, but it was in a future year. So we were able to just do some shifting from year to year. In addition, in the 5-year plan, we asked for 200,000 to replace the floating boardwalk at the wildlife sanctuary between the observation building and the nature center. I feel pretty confident that I can find other funding for that and take it completely off of our bond request. So that would save 200,000 right there. So a combination of those two made up most of it, and then the other ones were just shifted. Basically, the years were shifted.
what other ones? With the smaller
Yeah,
projects?
that's fine.
I'm just,
So at Perkins, the ones that we had listed for, in our 5-year plan initially, was at Perkins, we had construct a baseball field and construct 2 soccer fields.
how much was the baseball field? I
The
know that is
baseball
a
field
pain.
was 350,000.
Is that one's
That is
off?
being shifted to next year's funding, and then the soccer fields would be 2 years out.
Boy, when I was at baseball this fall, son plays baseball, and we were at Perkins quite a bit.
Mhm.
There were some rumblings by some of the people saying, oh, I heard that our money's gonna get shifted a year back. Like, nah, it's not gonna happen, that won't happen. The
The money will get shifted a year back, but the timeline for construction won't.
Okay.
Because, again, same with the pickleball courts, with the other priorities ahead of it, we wouldn't have been building that court, that
Okay,
field
well, that's good.
until 2021 in any scenario, because we have other backlog projects that have been funded for years already that we're getting caught
That's
up
important.
on. So our plan is to bond for pickleball this year in 2020, and bond for the baseball field at Perkins in 2021, but build them both in 2021.
Awesome. Any other questions? On to the motion. Sorry, Alder Stoyer.
Oh,
What's up?
that
One more
was a
thing.
comment I wanted to make.
Oh.
That we were talking about some of the projects at Perkins, they were talking about some soccer fields and a baseball field. And I think just the way the timing was set up with the bonding and such, that it sounded like it would work out because they weren't gonna build the ball field till 2021 anyhow.
Okay.
So I just wanted the director to mention it.
Motion.
Director Duchette had a motion that, could you repeat that back?
Sure. The recommended motion would be to refer the 2020 proposed park projects to the Finance Committee for review and approval in the citywide 5-year capital improvement plan.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Burnett. Second by Alder Johnson. Discussion. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, consideration with possible action on the request by Alder Burnett to relocate the annual Kitty Carnival effective 2020 to any other city parks, possibly Colburn. Who wants first?
James will handle this.
All right, James?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we were asked to take a look at the Kitty Carnival and look at actually possibly like 3 different options that might work out for location going forward for the Kitty Carnival. So we met with Alderman Burnett and we talked about some possible locations, including Colburn Park, but also Joanne's. We even discussed, Astor and Fisk and even Bay Beach a little bit. Just went over the different logistics, I guess, involved with running the Kitty Carnival and the program itself, and kind of what the intent and moving forward, what would be the best fit. So we talked about things like location, the size and scope, the infrastructure, the staffing needs, time frame, other users that it would affect if we didn't move it, parking. We just talked about a lot of different aspects that you don't really think about initially when you see the Kitty Carnival. We also talked about a little bit about the concert that was going on at the same time, and whether or not that was a good fit or not. So, but upon I don't want to talk for Alderman Burnett, but upon kind of discussing all of these things, we thought maybe the best for 2020 at least is just to keep it at Light Park, and then moving forward, throughout this year, we can really evaluate some of these other user groups and kind of how it would affect. A couple other things that it affected actually were like different construction projects, like at Colburn. Different things going on there. So there was a couple different things that definitely we can reevaluate throughout this year and determine, based on the needs and the intent of the carnival, whether or not we do move it for 2021. So not saying we won't shut the door on that. It's moved already. The history of it's moved 5 or 6 times. So, Go ahead.
Thank you. Did you, I had one.
No, that's good.
I was just telling which order they're in.
Yep.
No, it's a good summary, and thank you, both you gentlemen, for meeting with me. It's just something that always was in the back of my mind, not that I'm actively looking to change the location. It's just I'm not comfortable with the traffic flow, like the actual vehicle traffic in and around that area. But given the fact that we've had it there many years, folks are used to it there, it's center of the city, I'd be hard pressed to make a recommendation to change it for this year. So I make a motion to receive and place a pile unless Alder Nicholson has any.
Well, let's handle the motion. Motion to receive and place on file. Second by Alder Johnson. Alderman Nicholson?
Well, what brought this up?
Just my personal opinion.
Oh, okay. And why have we moved it in the past?
Various reasons. So actually, the history of it, real quick.
Yeah, real quick.
1947, it started at Fisk Park. So then it rotated between Fisk
Real quick.
and Astor's in the 1950s.
Year by year.
Then it was held at Joanne's Park for a long time, from 1960 through 2009. In 2009, we got an irrigation system at Joanne's, and we couldn't pound posts into the ground anymore, and to construct the different carnival booths and those kind of things. So then it moved, to Light Park. That's kind of the history.
Thank
And
you.
it also had to do with the parade too.
Yeah.
So we took a parade and went down from Joanne's down to Light Park. So we figured, well, it's pretty makes sense to have it at Light Park, and that's our special event park.
Sounds good.
So,
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's it.
Any other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, James. Jesse? Consideration of possible action. Number 3, consideration of possible action on the request by Alder Burnett to study and prepare a report on the number of parks, city, county, school, and Oneida owned throughout the 12th district with the purpose of possibly locating property where the city can develop a new park.
So at the August 14th Park Committee meeting, we did present a report to you, which is basically what you see in front of you now. But what was asked is that we include the Oneida-owned property or Oneida-owned and managed parkland on this map and in our inventory on the second sheet. Because that was omitted from it initially because it wasn't a city park. So we did include that in this map. There are 3 locations where there are Oneida-owned parkland being maintained as parkland in the city. So you'll see right in the middle of the map, it says Oneida Three Sisters. There's actually 2 parks there. One is just a little tot lot, and the other one is a little bit bigger one with a larger playground and a basketball court or tennis courts. I can't remember which is there. But there are 2 locations where there's some parkland there. And then the third location is right at the far west end of the city limits. You'll see something called Finger Lake. And that park actually extends further north into Howard, I believe. And there's actually like a fishing pond in there, which isn't in the city limits, but this is part of that park. So those are the 3 locations that are tribal-owned land and maintained as official parkland. So those are the only things that have changed on this report since the last time we met. In addition to revising the report, a motion was made to refer to staff to work with Alderman Burnett to continue to study the report and see if there was any possibility of adding parkland to the 12th district. So we did meet a few weeks ago to discuss this in more detail. We looked at some aerial photos and looked at the maps. The majority of the existing open land that's there within the district is tribal-owned land. And most of the other land is privately owned, but it's developed for the most part. So we did have some discussions, if we were to add parkland, what's the best way to accomplish that? And one idea that came out of that meeting was to have discussions with the Oneida tribe to see if there's any interest with teaming up with the city in whatever way, shape, or form to add parkland to the west side. So since our meeting, I did have some discussions with the tribe to see if that's something they're interested in. It's something that they're willing to discuss it, and they haven't committed to anything. We don't have any proposals tonight to share with you, but they're open to keeping the discussions open on that. So, if anything comes out of those discussions, I will definitely bring it back to the committee and city council for review and discussion, as it would affect our park system. But for right now, really, what we were here to discuss was the report itself, and whether or not it's complete or needs to be updated. So that's kind of a summary of where we're at with things with that.
Thank you, Director.
Yeah,
Burnett.
thank you both again for the meeting, and I forget the other person who was there, but.
Corey
it was,
Denmeyer,
yeah,
park planner.
Yeah, it was a very good meeting. A couple thoughts. After that meeting, I had met with Mayor, and actually walking out of that meeting, I caught the intergovernmental person for the tribe, Melinda Danforth, I believe is her name, in the hallway, and she mentioned that they are interested in the discussions. The mayor indicated that that's part of the discussion that will be brought up during the cooperative governance agreement. I did coordinate a discussion with the King of Arms Neighborhood Association president. There's some work being done at Hemanstruck Park, which is in the district. Boy Scout or Cub Scout just had worked on a project to make better trail markers for land out there. So there's a lot of things moving forward that I'm happy about and I'm satisfied with. So now that hopefully, knock on wood, I'll be here for another term as an alder, I can work with all the interested stakeholders out in the 12th district. So I'd be content with the motion to receive and place on file.
Nobody ran against.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, is there a second? Second. Second by Alderman Johnson, discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion,
Director's report.
Just a couple of quick things. So Colburn Pool, the majority of the work on the bathhouse and the mechanical room is now completed, with just a few minor things left to do. The work on the pool itself will be done this spring, and we're still on track to open on time. Registration for the 4th annual Frenzy on the Facts is still going on. That's being held this Friday on City Deck from 6:30 to 8. Right now, registration fee is $20, so it's a great event for runners, walkers, bikers, everyone, and there's different distances that you can select that you want to run or walk. So currently, we already have 160 plus people registered, if not more than that now.
It's like 220 or
220 right now, so that was last week.
Dan's
We were at
in there?
160.
I think Dan's new.
Oh.
The mayor's coming too.
Yeah. Brian? Jesse? Second one.
So, and then the last thing is, we're doing a lot of planning for the Frosty Family Fun Night at the Wildlife Sanctuary. That'll be Saturday, February 1st. It's an evening event. You can candlelight walks through the nature trails. There's a lot of events. We're gonna have a food truck there this year. So if you've never been there, it's really nice to see it all decorated and lit up at night. So I would encourage all of you to attend.
What time is that at, Dan?
5 to 8.
Thank you.
That concludes my director's report.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn, Alderman Nicholson.
Second?
Second, Alderman Burnett. Those in favor?
All right.
Opposed, motion carried, we're adjourned.
What's up?
You don't, you're
Done?
supposed to.
Oh, well.
You don't have to. This is.